Daniel Whitman stared at the framed photo on his desk. 20 years of marriage captured in a single moment at their anniversary dinner just 6 months ago. Claire's smile radiant, his arm around her shoulder, both of them looking like they'd won life's lottery. The bitter irony wasn't lost on him now, knowing what he knew, carrying the weight of truths that would destroy everything in that photograph. "I destroyed 2 lives in one night," he would later confess to his therapist, his voice steady as granite, "and I'd do it again. But to understand the fire, you must first understand the foundation it burned down. They'd been Oakwood High's golden couple, the project manager's son and the artist's daughter who somehow made sense together. Daniel, methodical and steady even at 17, had approached Claire with a color-coded study schedule for their chemistry class. She'd laughed, called him adorable, and kissed him right there in the library. 22 years later, that kiss had led to a colonial house on Maple Street, 2 cars in the garage, and a life that neighbors whispered about with envy. Daniel had built their stability brick by brick. His work at Thompson Construction wasn't glamorous, but it was dependable. 12-hour days managing building projects meant Claire could pursue her part-time work at the Community Arts Center, teaching pottery to retirees and hosting paint and sip nights. Their friends, mostly other couples from the neighborhood, would joke at barbecues about Daniel and Claire being relationship goals. "You two make it look so easy," their friend Connor would say. Beer in hand, watching them move around each other in the kitchen with practiced synchronization. For years, it had been easy, or at least Daniel had thought so. The changes started subtly. During their 20th anniversary dinner, the one from the photograph, Claire had checked her phone 3 times during the main course. When he'd asked about it, she'd waved him off with a dismissive gesture. "Just confirming tomorrow's class schedule," she'd explained hastily. But her thumb had moved too quickly across the screen, the practiced swipe of someone deleting messages. Then came the distant moments in bed. She'd turn away, claiming exhaustion, but he'd catch her eyes wide open in the darkness, staring at nothing. Once, mid-embrace, she'd actually sighed, not with pleasure, but with something that sounded disturbingly like resignation. Daniel had pulled back, asked if everything was all right. "Of course," she'd replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just tired. The grocery store lie started 3 months ago. Traffic was horrible, so I just came home," she'd explain, empty-handed. But the traffic app on his phone showed clear roads. "Ran into Jennifer, we grabbed coffee instead," became her Tuesday excuse. Except Jennifer had moved to Portland 6 months earlier. Daniel found himself doing something he'd sworn he'd never do, checking their joint credit card statements. No unusual purchases. Her car's mileage, however, told a different story. Extra miles that didn't align with her stated destinations. 20 here, 30 there. Where was she going? He'd sit in his office at Thompson Construction, staring at blueprints but seeing patterns in Claire's behavior instead. The new password on her phone. The way she'd started doing her own laundry, insisting his work clothes would contaminate her delicates. The Thursday evening yoga classes that had mysteriously shifted to private sessions he was discouraged from attending. "You're being paranoid," he'd tell himself. But his gut, the same instinct that had saved him from bad contractors and shifty suppliers, screamed otherwise. The breaking point came on an ordinary Tuesday. He'd left work early with a migraine, hoping to rest in their quiet house. As he pulled into the driveway, he heard it, the sharp crack of the back door closing. Inside, he found Claire in the kitchen, slightly breathless, hair mussed despite her claim of just cleaning. "In your work clothes?" he'd asked, noting her silk blouse. "I was about to change," she'd responded defensively, her voice carrying an edge. The house was spotless. The only evidence of any activity was a single coffee mug in the sink, still warm. Claire hadn't drunk coffee past noon in their entire marriage. She claimed it kept her awake. That night, as she showered, immediately upon his arrival home, he noted, Daniel stood in their bedroom, feeling like a stranger in his own life. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Before he could stop himself, he glanced at the screen. The message preview showed only, "That was too close. We need to be more." The rest was cut off. When Claire emerged from the bathroom, she snatched the phone, claiming it was about a surprise party for her mom. Her mother's birthday was 8 months away. Daniel lay awake that night, Claire sleeping peacefully beside him, and made a decision. He wouldn't confront her without proof. 2 decades of marriage had earned that much. But he would find the truth, whatever it cost. His gut instinct, the one she'd always teased him about, had never been wrong about the important things. He was about to find out it was right about this, too. The cameras were smaller than Daniel had imagined. Connor, his contractor friend and sometimes drinking buddy, had installed them under the pretense of a security upgrade. "These are top of the line," Connor had explained, showing Daniel the phone app. "Motion-activated, night vision, cloud storage. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it." Connor hadn't asked what Daniel was looking for. Good friends knew when not to push. The next 3 days were agony. Daniel went through the motions of normalcy, kissing Claire goodbye each morning, asking about her day each evening, maintaining conversations about weekend plans and grocery lists, all while knowing that cameras were recording every moment in their bedroom, living room, and kitchen. He noticed things he'd previously missed. How Claire always waited for him to leave first in the mornings. How she'd started suggesting he visit his parents more often. How she'd become oddly insistent about his upcoming business trip to Chicago. "You should extend it," she'd suggested over dinner Wednesday night. "Make it a long weekend. You deserve a break." Since when did Claire encourage him to be away longer? Thursday afternoon, Daniel sat in his locked office at Thompson Construction, laptop open to the security app. His hands shook as he clicked on the first motion alert from Tuesday, the day he'd come home early. The timestamp read 2:47 p.m. The figure that entered his house wasn't a stranger, wasn't a colleague from the arts center, wasn't some young lover Claire had met online. It was his father, Robert Whitman, 63 years old, retired bank manager, grandfather to Daniel's sister's kids, the man who'd taught Daniel to throw a baseball and shake hands firmly and look people in the eye when speaking. He walked into Daniel's house using the spare key Daniel had given him for emergencies. He moved through the rooms like he owned them, comfortable and familiar. He went to the kitchen, poured himself water from the pitcher Claire always kept in the fridge, then headed to the master bedroom. Daniel's stomach churned. His mind raced for innocent explanations. Maybe Dad was checking on something. Maybe Claire had asked him to. Claire appeared in the frame. She practically ran to Robert, throwing her arms around his neck, kissing him with a passion Daniel hadn't seen from her in years. His father's hands moved over his wife's body with practiced familiarity. They were laughing about something, Claire's head thrown back, his father nuzzling her neck. Daniel ran to the bathroom and vomited. When he returned to his desk, he forced himself to continue watching. They moved to the bedroom, his bed, the place where he and Claire had planned their future. The casual intimacy between them was worse than the sex itself. The way his father knew exactly how Claire liked her hair touched. The pet names, sweetheart from his father, baby from Claire. The easy conversation afterward, discussing their days like any couple would. "Daniel wants me to go to Chicago with him next month," Claire mentioned in the recording. "Make an excuse," his father replied immediately. "I'm running out of excuses." "Rob," she responded with frustration, "just a little longer. After your birthday party, we can start making real plans," he assured her. Daniel watched 2 weeks of footage. His father visited every Tuesday and Thursday, the exact days Daniel always worked late on the Riverside Development Project. They had a routine. Robert would arrive at 2:30, leave by 5. They'd shower together afterward, erasing the evidence. Claire would start dinner, acting the perfect wife, when Daniel arrived home at 6 Ast. In one recording, they discussed him explicitly. "He's so trusting," Claire laughed. "Sometimes I feel bad." "Don't," Robert responded firmly. "He's had 20 years. It's my turn now." "Your own son, though," she said with a hint of uncertainty. "He'll be fine. He's always been resilient. Besides, he's married to his work more than you," his father justified. Daniel paused the video. His father had just justified his son's wife by claiming Daniel worked too much. The same work ethic his father had drilled into him since childhood. The most damaging recording came from the previous Tuesday. They were lying in bed, Claire's head on his father's chest, a position she'd claimed was uncomfortable when Daniel had tried it. "After my birthday party." "I want to file," Claire stated decisively. "Are you sure?" Robert asked. "The prenup has an adultery clause, but only if proven." If we're careful, I can claim emotional neglect. Half of everything plus alimony, she explained. I've already talked to my lawyer friend, Robert revealed, quietly. We can make it seem like Daniel's work obsession drove you away. My divorce from Patricia is almost final anyway. Patricia, his mother. They were planning to destroy both marriages, both families, and walk away together. Daniel closed the laptop and sat in the darkness of his office. The fury he expected didn't come. Instead, a cold clarity settled over him. They wanted to wait until after Claire's 40th birthday party, a party where both families would gather, where his mother would probably give a touching speech about marriage, where his father would toast to family values. He picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found Jennifer Walsh, the divorce attorney who'd helped Connor during his ugly split. Her reputation was ruthless efficiency. Jennifer, it's Daniel Whitman. I need your help destroying two people who thought they could destroy me first, he said when she answered. How soon can you get me evidence? She asked. All business. I have video. Hours of it, he replied. Then let's bury them, she responded with satisfaction. Jennifer Walsh's office smelled of leather and coffee, with an underlying scent of destruction that seemed to seep from the case files stacked on every surface. She watched the first video for 30 seconds before stopping it. I've seen enough, she declared, sliding the prenup across her mahogany desk. This adultery clause is bulletproof. She gets nothing except what she brought into the marriage. Which was? Daniel asked. According to these records, about $3,000 and a used Honda Civic you sold 15 years ago, she answered after checking her notes. Daniel felt no satisfaction, only cold determination. What about the birthday party? He inquired. Jennifer leaned back, a shark smile crossing her face. You want public destruction? She observed. I want the truth exposed, he corrected. Same thing, in my experience, she noted, pulling out a legal pad. Here's what we do. Document everything. Every lie, every text, every financial transaction. Build an airtight case before you make your move. Courts love evidence, but juries love stories. You're going to give them both. For 3 weeks, Daniel became a method actor in his own life. He kissed Claire goodbye each morning, tasting betrayal on her lips. He had dinner with his parents on Sundays, his father carving the roast while dispensing advice about keeping the romance alive in marriage. The hypocrisy should have been suffocating, but Daniel found strength in his secret knowledge. He installed additional cameras. Tiny, undetectable things Connor acquired through channels Daniel didn't ask about. Audio recorders in the guest room where Claire and Robert sometimes retreated. GPS trackers on both their cars. Every text Claire sent, backed up to a cloud server through the family phone plan she'd forgotten, gave him administrative access. The evidence was overwhelming and nauseating. Texts planning their rendezvous, Robert typed, "He suspects nothing?" Claire responded, "Please. Daniel wouldn't notice if I f***ed you on his desk." Robert replied, "Don't tempt me." Photos Claire sent to his father, intimate, explicit things Daniel had begged for during their marriage but been denied. I'm not that kind of woman, she'd always told him. Apparently, she was exactly that kind of woman for his father. Financial records showed his father had been paying for Claire's art supplies, which turned out to be lingerie, hotel rooms on the rare occasions they went off-site, and a savings account in her name only. She'd squirreled away nearly $30,000 over 2 years, all from Robert's retirement account. The birthday party planning became Daniel's cover. Claire wanted it perfect. Catered dinner for 50, a live band, professional photography. She gave him complete control over the surprise elements, including a video tribute she specifically requested. I want everyone to see how wonderful our life has been, she told him enthusiastically, not noticing Daniel's knuckles whiten as he gripped his coffee mug. They'll definitely see everything, he replied carefully. He hired a professional video editor, paying cash, having him sign an NDA. Together, they crafted 2 presentations. The first, a beautiful montage of 20 years, wedding photos, vacations, holidays, all set to Claire's favorite song. The second, spliced seamlessly after the family moments, contained the surveillance footage. Claire and Robert in bed, their conversations about the divorce, the financial transfers, the texts, everything. 3 days before the party, Daniel made his final recording. He'd hidden a high-definition camera in the bedroom lamp, positioned perfectly. That Thursday, he texted Claire that he'd be home late, a fabricated crisis at the Riverside project. Then he parked 3 blocks away and waited. At 2:30 p.m., his father's Lexus pulled into the driveway. Daniel waited 10 minutes, then crept to his own back door, listening through the audio feed on his phone. "After Saturday, everything changes," Claire was saying excitedly. "The party?" Robert asked. "Daniel's going to Chicago Monday. I'll file while he's gone. Claim abandonment, emotional neglect. My lawyer says with my documentation of his work obsession, I'll get everything," she explained confidently. "What documentation?" he inquired. "I've been keeping a journal for 2 years. Every late night, every missed dinner, every time he chose work over me. Backdated entries to make it look like a pattern," she revealed. "Clever girl," he praised. "I learned from the best," she responded, warmly. Daniel heard his father laugh, the same laugh, from when Daniel had hit his first home run in Little League. The sound of betrayal had a familiar tune. He drove back to his office and called Jennifer. "They're planning to file Monday," he informed her. "Then we strike Saturday." "Everything ready?" she asked. "The prenup, the evidence, the divorce papers?" he confirmed. "Signed by a judge this morning." "The beauty of irrefutable evidence of adultery," she stated with satisfaction. Daniel looked at the birthday party invitation on his desk. Gold embossed, Claire's favorite color. "Please join us in celebrating Claire's 40th birthday. A life well lived, Jennifer." "What happens after I do this?" he asked quietly. "Honestly, your life explodes. But sometimes, Mr. Whitman, a controlled demolition is better than waiting for the earthquake," she answered thoughtfully. "Saturday would be the earthquake, but Daniel would be the one setting the charges." The Oakwood Country Club had been transformed into Claire's vision of elegance. Golden light cascaded from crystal chandeliers, white roses and baby's breath adorned every table, and a string quartet played softly as guests arrived. Daniel stood at the entrance, greeting each arrival with a handshake and smile that never wavered. "Daniel!" His mother, Patricia, kissed his cheek warmly. "Everything looks beautiful. Claire must be so happy." Behind her, his father adjusted his tie, the blue one Daniel had given him last Father's Day. "Son," Robert said, clasping Daniel's shoulder. "Proud of you. 20 years is an achievement these days." "Yes," Daniel replied, meeting his father's eyes directly. Loyalty is so rare. His sister Sarah arrived with her family, her children running ahead. Claire's parents, still spry in their 70s, beamed as they entered. Friends from the neighborhood, colleagues from Thompson Construction, Claire's students from the Art Center, 53 people in total, each one about to witness history. Claire made her entrance at 7 sharp, wearing the red dress Daniel had bought her for their anniversary, the one she'd never worn for him. The room burst into applause. She moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting compliments and affection, occasionally catching Daniel's eye with what she probably thought was a loving glance. During dinner, Daniel stood to give the first toast. 20 years ago, I married my best friend. I thought I knew everything about Claire then. But marriage is about discovery, about learning who someone really is beneath the surface. Tonight, I want to share that journey with all of you." Claire dabbed at her eyes. His father raised his glass in approval. At 8:45, Daniel stood again. "Claire asked me to create something special for tonight, a tribute to our life together. I've spent weeks on this, making sure nothing was left out. This is the complete picture of our marriage," he announced. The lights dimmed. The projection screen descended. The video began. For 3 minutes it was perfect. Wedding shots dissolved into honeymoon beaches. Their first house, that tiny apartment above the bakery. Claire's college graduation. Daniel's promotion to project manager. Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas mornings. The guests murmured appreciatively, several wiping away tears. Then the screen flickered. The first surveillance clip was gentle, almost innocent. Claire and Robert kissing in the kitchen. For a moment, the room stayed silent, processing what they were seeing. Then Claire's mother gasped loudly. The video continued. Bedroom footage time-stamped and dated. Claire and Robert's voices filled the room. "Your own son, though," Claire's voice said with uncertainty. "He's had 20 years." "It's my turn now," Robert's voice responded coldly. Chaos erupted. Claire screamed, lunging for the projector. Daniel stepped into her path, holding divorce papers. "You wanted documentation? he said loudly, ensuring everyone could hear. I have 2 years' worth. Patricia Whitman stood slowly, her face pale. She walked to Robert, who was stammering denials despite the evidence playing behind him. In our son's bed? She asked quietly. Then she slapped him with enough force to echo through the room. Claire's father had to be restrained by 2 of Daniel's construction crew from attacking Robert. Claire's mother sat frozen, watching her daughter sob and plead on the screen as the surveillance footage showed her planning to take Daniel's money. Turn it off, Claire begged desperately, mascara streaming down her face. Please, Daniel, turn it off. Why? This is our life. This is what you wanted everyone to see, he responded calmly. The video reached the audio from 3 days ago. Claire's recorded voice explained, I've been keeping a journal for 2 years. Every late night, every missed dinner, every time he chose work over me. Backdated entries. That's fraud, Jennifer Walsh announced from her table, having attended as Daniel's +1. Criminal fraud. Actually, the final clip was from that morning, Claire on the phone with someone. After tonight, I'm done pretending. 20 years of my life wasted on a man who loves spreadsheets more than me. The screen went dark. In the silence, Daniel handed Claire the divorce papers. Sign them now or Jennifer files criminal charges for fraud and theft. Yes, we know about the account you and my father funded, he stated firmly. Claire's hands shook as she signed, her signature barely legible through her tears. Robert, Patricia's voice cut through the room. I'm keeping the house, the retirement accounts, everything. My lawyer will contact you Monday. Mom, Sarah stepped forward, putting herself between her parents. How could you, Dad? How could you do this to Daniel? To all of us? Robert looked around the room, 53 people staring at him with disgust, horror, or fury. His golf buddies turned away. His brother shook his head. His own grandchildren looked confused and frightened. Daniel, he started desperately. No, Daniel interrupted, turning his back on his father, a gesture more violent than any punch. You're dead to me. Security arrived. Daniel had hired them specifically for this possibility. They escorted Robert and Claire out separately. Claire's parents followed, her mother supporting her father, who seemed to have aged a decade in 10 minutes. The room emptied slowly, guests unsure whether to offer condolences or congratulations. Connor stayed, as did Jennifer and, surprisingly, Daniel's mother, I suspected. Patricia admitted quietly, nursing a whiskey. Not Claire specifically, but someone. He'd been different for 2 years. Why didn't you say anything? Daniel asked. Same reason you didn't, I suppose. Hope that I was wrong, she answered sadly. Daniel looked at the empty projection screen, the ghost of his marriage still flickering in his mind. What now? He asked. Now, Jennifer said decisively, you're free. The house is yours, the assets are yours, and they can never come back. But freedom, Daniel would learn, had its own weight. 6 months later, Daniel stood in what had been his father's study, now converted into a home gym. The house felt different, not empty, but purposeful. Every room had been reclaimed, repainted, refurnished. The bed burned in the backyard the day after the party, replaced with one no ghost could haunt. Claire had vanished to Oregon, living with a cousin who'd taken pity. The last Daniel heard through the legal channels, she was working at a grocery store, her art center connections severed after the video went viral in their small town. Someone had filmed the party revelation on their phone, posting it online before Daniel's lawyer could issue takedown notices. The damage was done. His father lived in a studio apartment 40 miles away. He'd sent letters, dozens of them, all returned unopened. He'd appeared at Daniel's door once, 3 months after the party. Daniel had called the police, filing a restraining order. Robert Whitman was a stranger who happened to share DNA. Patricia had thrived in her unexpected freedom. She'd taken up traveling, sold the family home, bought a condo downtown. I should have done this years ago, she told Daniel over coffee. I was so busy playing the perfect wife, I forgot to live. Sarah still struggled with the fracture. Her children asked why Grandpa couldn't come to Christmas. She'd chosen Daniel's side, but mourned the father she'd thought she had. It's like he died, she confided to Daniel. Except worse because he chose this. Daniel's phone buzzed, a text from Jennifer. Judge signed off on the final settlement. Claire gets nothing. Your father's attempt to contest his mother's divorce settlement also failed. Complete victory, victory. Daniel set down the phone and looked at the framed photo on his new desk. Not of Claire, but of himself on a mountain trail he'd hiked last month. Alone, but not lonely. Broken, but not beaten. His therapist had asked him last week if he regretted the public revelation. "I regret that it was necessary," he'd answered thoughtfully. "But they made their choices in my bed, in my house, with my trust as collateral. They planned to destroy me quietly, privately, letting me take the blame. So no, I don't regret letting everyone see who they really were." And if you could do it again? The therapist had pressed. "I'd do exactly the same thing," he'd responded without hesitation. The therapist had nodded, making notes. "Anger can be a kind of clarity," she'd observed. "It's not anger anymore," Daniel had corrected. "It's truth. They showed me who they were. I just made sure everyone else saw it too." Now, standing in his reclaimed space, Daniel understood the real aftermath of revenge. It wasn't satisfaction or regret, it was silence. The quiet after an explosion, when the dust settles and you realize you're still standing. His phone rang. "Connor calling! Poker night at my place, you in?" Connor asked when Daniel answered. "Yeah," Daniel said, grabbing his keys. "I'm in." Life continued. Different. Scarred. But his own. As he locked the door behind him, Daniel thought about Claire and his father. Probably somewhere plotting their next moves, blaming everyone but themselves. He'd burned their betrayal to the ground in front of everyone they knew. They'd lost everything. Reputation, family, financial security. But Daniel had lost things too. A father, a wife, the illusion of the life he'd built. The difference was, he'd chosen his losses, controlled his demolition. And from those ashes, he was building something new, something honest. His phone buzzed again. A text from a number he didn't recognize. "I'm Claire's cousin in Oregon. She wanted me to tell you she's sorry," the message read. Daniel deleted the message without responding. Sorry was just another word for too late. He drove toward Connor's house, the setting sun painting the sky the color of endings and beginnings. In his rearview mirror, the house on Maple Street grew smaller, but never disappeared completely. Some fires, Daniel knew, you carry with you forever. The trick was learning not to let them burn you twice. He'd destroyed 2 lives in one night. And given the same choice, the same betrayal, the same 20 years of lies sleeping beside him, he'd light the match again, without hesitation, without regret, just with better cameras. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.